Namo tassa. Now I just want to make a short video this time on that one main topic, and just to give a clear idea, meaning as usual a very simple explanation to maybe the greatest question or existential question that humans have and always had. Today there was a video again on that topic, supposedly giving the answer of the Buddha, which is not a real answer, because also sometimes the Buddha decided not to answer some specific questions, as it is meant in this video that you are really wasting a lot of time with those deeper existential questions that are not relevant anyway to your practice on the path and trying to reach the ultimate goal. And if you reach the ultimate goal, then you will actually get that answer, and that's the point again, as usual. Just be patient that way and not get your mind too busy with those very deep existential questions that you can't have the answer, or at least cannot conceive or fathom the answer in your mind as it is at that stage. And that is the point. So in some ways you can make it a two-in-one question, as the deepest one is, what is the universe about and where does it come from? What created the universe? And then related to that, of course, is what those crazy humans have made for so long as the only beings doing that, which is the idea of a God or a God creator. So, in the way that I can relate to Osho, I can make it very clear, simple, and provocative, of course, for some, but that's again the way things go for some people with cognitive dissonance, and when they like to believe in some things. Again, that notion of belief, right? I've touched on that before. If you are a believer in anything, and if you believe, that means you are a very ignorant person still. That means you don't know, and you just choose to follow blindly what other people have said or what they have exposed to you. Whether you think it makes sense to you or not, fine. But as long as you haven't experienced the thing or the ultimate reality of existence, then it's only based on belief, which comes from ignorance. So there is no God like this. There is no God creator. I hope one day humans will stop to be so delusional on that idea, again stemming from ignorance and not knowing but wanting to know. But at the same time, they never really try to practice the proper thing that actually could give them somewhat a tangible answer, which is what we practice in Buddhist meditation at the deepest level. And again, it goes back to what I've explained before, what I explained in my book, that you know that ultimately, actually, as many philosophers or spirituals have explained, the solution usually in the practice and as far as answers is always in simplicity. Yesterday there was a quote that I posted again on that. The answer is not in complexity or a bunch of things together, complicated ideas. Yes, many humans and scientific world like to go in complication, the complicated way. That's why they create more and more things, more and more notions, more and more concepts, more and more whatever elements or anything. Again, whatever elements you find in the chemistry table, again it goes back to always the same thing, which the Buddha of course discovered, and you can experience yourself, as I mentioned before, if you go deep enough in meditation, which is the core of matter and the atomic level and the subatomic level of things. And then when you go to that stage and experience that level, you realize that pretty much everything is the same, with a lot of void, as they like to mention in Mahayana a lot, emptiness and void. So it's a lot of empty space, and it's all about energy interacting. So different ways energy interact with itself, and it's always, most of the time, in a dual way. So the polarity is that then it combines in many different ways, and that's what creates so many different so-called elements. But the base is always the same. So, not discussing too much again, as far as the right answer is always the most simple. But again, for those very complicated, crazy human minds, they have a really hard time with that. So to understand where the universe comes from and what it's about is simply the notion of infinity. It's quite funny that in mathematics and high-level mathematics, infinity is used quite a bit. Of course, the famous symbol, right? Infinity. And it seems like a normal, let's say, concept to use in high-level mathematics. Yet, most humans have a really hard time with that. They can't conceive that. Everything has to be, and the whole scientific world, as I mentioned before, which is what makes them very limited, always limited, and that's why they can't find the ultimate answers, and they can't conceive it because their mind are too complicated, too messed up, too much a monkey mind, no matter how many diplomas and no matter the reputation. So the problem is, again, that the human mind has a real issue with the idea of infinity, and they need finite things, they need borders, they need limits, they need a start and an end, even though the reality of life is a continuum, exactly made of things that come up and go, arising and passing away. That's all there is. But there's no beginning and no end. Of course, that becomes a problem for a very limited mind, the human mind, for most people. So that's the only problem there. But the simple answer, actually, and it should be simple that way, is that there is infinity. So there's no beginning and no end. It's only constant, evolving, changing phenomena, appearing, disappearing. That's all. And that's why there's all kind of combinations at different scale of time and space. So you could say that that's why there's an infinity of combinations. So in that sense, you could say, yes, there are some alien life, different kinds, different places, on different systems. And that's exactly because of that randomness of combination of energies that comes and goes. So it creates some kind of species for a while, but at some point, sooner or later, those kind of species or phenomena will go away, no matter how much they seem to have existed for a long time. Again, long time depends on which scale. Of course, humans like to take themselves as the universal reference, so they take their own scale of time and space as the universal one, but of course the universe doesn't care. The universe is so much bigger than that, has been around for so much longer. So humans are just a little creation out there in that little time frame in the evolution of things that is again a non-stop continuum. So there will be all kind of things and beings or combination of interaction of energy under the form of things, material or light or heat, pressure. It's all that combined many different ways. So again, humans are nothing more than that, and just passing through for a certain period of time. So again, it's all the human ego, moha, from the delusion, out of ignorance again, avijja, that like to think that they are important, something special, and they are something about the creation, but out of that delusional ignorance, trying to find some answers that they can conceive, because they don't do the proper work to go to the core of things, then they like to create a God creator or a creator. But there is nothing like that. It's just constant evolution of energies combining under many, an infinity of ways. That's all there is. That's why sometimes advanced physics, for some, they like to show it as a spiral that keeps moving forward. And yes, you can look at it that way. But again, that's just because of the narrow mind that likes to picture something. So again, to help to conceive, they need a limited thing, and they like to make an image. But that's again very limited compared to being able to integrate the notion of infinity as you are part of it. You are part of the universe too. And that's why, like some say, if you meditate deep enough, you can experience the whole universe within yourself. But you have to reach the highest level of concentration for that. So in another hand, of course, in Buddhism, there are some, you could say, kingdoms of God, 31 realms of existence. So actually the humans are supposed to be in the middle. That's why they're a combination of good and bad. That's a real duality. Then there is some higher level of existence that they're called devas. It's like the fairies or ethereal beings, you can say. Different kind of universe. And then the Brahma level, the highest level of that, can be called, back in the days when some people had still some old proper knowledge, what we call the kingdom of gods. So in that sense, you could have gods that way, but just because they are a different kind of beings living in a different realm of existence, different dimension. But it's not like the one God creator. There's nothing as such, of course. That is very delusional to believe that, and that's why it becomes the source of so much madness and violence at the human scale. So that was just to address that topic of God creator and universe that goes together. And again, to sum it up, it's very simple and clear. There is no God creator, there is no one God like that. There is just the laws of nature, the laws of physics in one way of the universe, and that's what rules everything, and nothing is above that, of course. Nobody is above that. And the humans should stop to take themselves as the universal reference and what they conceive at their own level as how it is in the world, and that will help at least the scientific community to understand a little bit better some things that they are still looking for. But ultimately, again, become a deep meditator, go deep enough in concentration, then you will experience the universe within yourself. As I mentioned before, also, as I made a long time a little audio video with the torus equation. The torus equation is what comes the closest as infinity. So the answer is infinity, no beginning, no end, but it's just a cycling of energies coming and going in different ways at all the scale. So within yourself, at the atomic scale, And at the scale of the universe, it's all about cycles of expansion, contraction, vibration, right? Coming and going, just waves. Tesla had said it, of course, in a good way too. If you want to understand everything of the universe, things of term of energy, frequency, vibration, everything energy, that's it. Energy that has always been there, that will always be there. It comes and goes, combined in many, many different ways, an infinity of ways. And that's the point. There's no beginning and no end to that. It is that simple.